at 6. 3 people are behind bars for the second double murder in Butler County in 4 months. Jake Boswell has the latest on the case. Political director Michael Gossam introduces us to one of our newest state representatives, Belinda Gibbons-Prunty. And Catherine Gardner accompanies a Bowling Green police sergeant hand-delivering baskets of Thanksgiving bounty. 13 News at 6 starts now.
From WBKO, your hometown news leader, this is 13 News at 6.
2 people dead and 3 people charged with their murders. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gene Burke. It's Butler County's second double homicide in 4 months. Our Jake Boswell brings us up to speed on a case that still has many loose ends.
Gene, Charles Cotton Lindsay spent the weekend on the run before eventually being arrested here in Bowling Green. He's the 3rd person charged in a murder where the victims still haven't been officially identified. Now, as far as those court appearances will happen, it's something that is not set in stone yet, but we're continuing to track, Gene.
So, Jake, why is it taking so long to ID the bodies?
Well, the bodies were in really bad shape whenever Kentucky State Police sent them off to a crime analyst. And really with the state crime lab, things can be backed up, and they're expecting those hopefully as soon as they can get them, hopefully this week, maybe before the holiday. But really, it's just because they were in such a bad state. It's going to take DNA. They can't use dental records or anything like that. And we've talked to them today, Kentucky State Police. They're saying they want to be 100% absolutely sure before they release that information to us.
And how did police come to arrest these 3?
We don't know that yet. That's something that we're really curious about, just like everybody else, is exactly how these 3 have been tied to this murder, or at least tied together as well. We're hoping they'll be in court within the next week, like we said. Could be tomorrow, as early as tomorrow. Could be after the holiday next week. We'll learn a lot more, it sounds like, when they make their first court appearance in Butler County.
All right, thank you, Jake. A man charged with murder in connection to a stabbing in Bowling Green early Saturday morning makes his first appearance in court. 20-year-old DeAndre Payne pleaded not guilty, and his bond was set at $500,000. His next court appearance is next Monday. And the second man, Anthony Johnson, is charged with tampering with evidence in connection to this case. Payne had told police that Johnson got rid of the knife. Johnson's bond is set at $50,000. Payne was arrested Saturday evening after running from police. A man charged with a Bowling Green robbery made his first appearance in court this morning. Dustin Chilton is charged with robbing the Shell gas station on Riverview Drive earlier this month. He was identified after being recognized on our Crime Stoppers segment. Chilton pleaded not guilty. His bond is set at $50,000, and he will also appear in court a week from today. Breaking news to give you right now. Nearly a month after her body was found in the Green River, police have now arrested and charged a man with the murder of Kristen Edwards. This is information we just received in the last couple of minutes. Our Jake Boswell is at Kentucky State Police headquarters where the suspect was just interrogated. Jake?
Yeah, Gene, I'm standing at the Kentucky State Police Post 3 here in Bowling Green. We're still getting some details into our newsroom at this point. What I can confirm, we believe there has been an arrest in the murder of Kristen Edwards here this afternoon. Details, again, are still scarce, but we can confidently confirm that an arrest has been made. The arrest was made earlier today in Cave City. There was a suspect here at Post 3 about 30 minutes to an hour ago, and I was able to see him being taken out of the post here, put in the back of a squad car and driven away. We really don't know much else besides that at this point, Gene. We do know, obviously, this case has been going on for about a month now. Kristen Edwards, if you don't remember, was the girl who lived in Cave City and was found inside of a tote bag in the Green River. Really made the entire town of Cave City very nervous, but at this point we can confirm there's an arrest. We don't know if there's been more than one person arrested at this point, but we do know at least one person arrested in this case. They'll be charged with murder. Reporting live in Bowling Green, Jake Boswell, WBKO.
Thank you, Jake. And just to recap, a man has now been arrested and charged with the murder of Kristen Edwards, whose body was found in a tote bag in the Green River. We now go to Whitney Davis to continue our coverage of the arrest of the man charged with her murder. She is live from the apartment complex in Cave City, where the arrest took place earlier today.
Guys, despite it being a big tourist attraction kind of place, most people will tell you that Cave City is usually a quiet town, but that certainly has not been the case today. I'm at EP Terry Estates, standing in front of the building where the man charged with Kristen Edwards' murder was arrested earlier this afternoon and actually just left once again with police. I'm going to take a step back so you guys can see the building a little bit better. Now, People living close by told me that this is not the first time that police have stopped by this particular apartment building this week. The man who has been taken into custody lived just feet away from Kristen Edwards' grandmother, a fact that has a lot of people feeling totally drained. I've spoken to several people out here this afternoon. That's a common emotion. They're all shaken up, and they said that they never dreamed that someone charged with murder could be living in their midst. Now, one woman actually says that she knows that any threat that could have been posed by the suspect is long gone. She is still not staying here tonight. Sending it back to you in the studio. Reporting live in Cave City, Whitney Davis, WBKO.
Thank you, Whitney. Of course, we'll have more on WBKO at 10.
Bowling Green police need your help finding a missing teenager. 16-year-old Cody Kessler ran away from foster care on March 8th. He was last seen wearing dark blue jeans, a white t-shirt, a black hooded sweatshirt, and black Nike gym shoes. Cody is 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighs 130 pounds. He has blonde hair and blue eyes with a piercing in his left ear. If you have any information on where Kessler might be, call the Bowling Green Police Department at 270-393-4244.
Your hometown news leader. This is a special election edition of WBKO. Your voice, your vote. Brought to you locally by Flora Templeton Stewart, attorney at law.
There was nip and tuck in the Democratic presidential Kentucky primary today as Kentuckians went to the polls to vote in national and state races. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gene Burke. Hillary Clinton is one step closer to securing the Democratic presidential nomination with a win in Kentucky today. It was a very close race, but it appears Clinton managed to edge out Bernie Sanders 47% to 46%. Andrea Walker joins us now to break down what both candidates stand for. Andrea?
Thanks so much, Gene. Clinton went into the night looking for a strong win, especially after several recent losses to Sanders. Hillary Clinton says she will improve the Affordable Care Act, has experience with other nations, and plans to help coal country. Her opponent, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, despite losing in the Commonwealth, is poised for a victory in the Oregon Democratic primary tonight. Sanders wants equality for the middle class, free college tuition, and to raise the minimum wage. And today on our poll question, we asked, who did you think would win Kentucky's Democratic presidential primary? Turns out our voters got it backwards tonight. Only 35% of you thought Hillary Clinton would win, while most of you thought Bernie Sanders would come away with the upset.
In the race for Congress, Tompkinsville's James Comer won the Republican nomination for the 1st District.
Comer won the nomination with 61% of the vote against Michael Pape, Jason Batts, and Miles Coffey Jr. Political director Michael Gossam has more from Comer's election party.
In a 4-person race in the Republican primary for United States Representative in the 1st District, James Comer came away tonight with a big victory, a resounding yes vote to give him the Republican nomination in this race. After his victory speech, we talked with him about his top priority if elected in the fall.
We got to balance a budget. We're spending more money than we're taking in. It's immoral what Congress is doing to our children and grandchildren. The number one priority for me is to pass a balanced budget amendment. The only way we're going to make Congress balance the budget is to pass a balanced budget amendment.
The Democrat in this race, Hopkinsville resident Samuel Gaskins, didn't have a primary tonight, but he'll face off with James Comer in the fall for this seat. Reporting in Tompkinsville, Michael Gossam, WBKO.
Let's head now to Whitney Davis in Barron County with reaction from the primary winners. Whitney?
Andrea, the results for the race with the 23rd District House seat came in just after 8 o'clock tonight. And as you all mentioned, on the Republican side, that meant that Steve Riley took the victory with more than 2,500 votes. I had a chance to catch up with Mr. Riley right after the announcement was made, and he tells me that for him, this position is all about trying to find a new way to serve the community.
Jacqueline Nye has been following this race and joins us now live from Barron County.
The Barron Metcalf judge race came in earlier this evening, and Catherine Thomas pulled out on top with nearly 2,700 votes, and Gabe Pendleton followed behind her with just over 2,000.
Now at 6, the jury holds the fate of Anthony Barber in their hands. They're currently in deliberations to determine his guilt or innocence. A fatal accident on I-65 this morning backs traffic up for hours. Catherine Gardner is in studio to show us what happened. And find out how some volunteers spent this day wrapping up some Christmas cheer for some lonely, isolated elderly people today. 13 News at 6 starts now.
From WBKO, your hometown news leader, this is 13 News at 6.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Burke. Welcome to 13 News at 6. A fatal wreck between a minivan and a tractor-trailer on I-65 in Bowling Green today. A Morgantown man is dead, and traffic was backed up for 10 miles for about 5 hours. New at 6, our Catherine Gardner was at the scene to find out what caused the crash.
Gene, the wreck happened around 11 this morning by exit 22 on I-65. When the Dodge minivan and the tractor-trailer collided, the truck overturned, causing a massive spill of corn to spread across the entire width of the road, leaving emergency workers dealing with a fatality and an unusual road blockage.
Congress passes a bill to help remove a dam on the Green River near Mammoth Cave National Park. The dam had major problems, and water levels were drastically affected. The bill is known as the Water Infrastructure Improvements for the Nation Act. It allows for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife to remove the damaged dam. State Auditor Mike Harmon says the University of Louisville Foundation created a dysfunctional governing environment. The foundation is the private investment branch of the university. The audit had 8 findings, including that the foundation overstepped its authority by increasing the salary of former university president James Ramsey. Interim President Neville Pinto says he agrees, and the foundation did not follow the best practices.
House lawmakers are in Frankfort right now discussing how to fund the state for the rest of the year. Governor Matt Bevin proposed $650 million in budget cuts, but House Democrats want to add much of it back in. The majority party in the House says they'll be able to fund education and other priorities, all while being able to solve the pension crisis. Our political director, Michael Gossam, is in Frankfort as we speak. We'll have an update on what is decided in the House as soon as lawmakers cast a vote.
Coming up on WBKO at 6, details on a hefty theft at Bowling Park Bingo Hall in this week's Crime Stoppers. Next.
But before we go to break today on our poll question, we want to hear from you. Do you think the Republican candidate should concede the presidential race to Donald Trump? To vote, go to WBKO.com, then watch us at 10 for the results. Jake Boswell kicks off our team coverage in downtown Russellville, where a shootout killed 1 man and sent 2 more to the hospital.
Yeah, Gene and Andrea, we're standing on the square of Russellville, where a prayer vigil has just wrapped up literally minutes ago. It's very beautiful weather here, a nice evening in Russellville, but a very ominous day here for the town. Police are continuing to investigate a shooting that involved 3 of their officers yesterday, and we're also continuing to investigate to try to find more information in this case. Now, we know that 34-year-old Joseph Harris started a chain of events yesterday that led to his death, and today we found out about a recent arrest that is connected to this case. Now, the scene yesterday, extremely hectic, something we're still following up on. Our Whitney Davis is one of the first reporters on the scene. I'm going to bring Whitney in here now. Whitney, you were here yesterday. You were here within about an hour or 2 of the shooting. How frantic was it? Could people even describe to you what was happening?
You know, Jake, they really couldn't. And I mentioned in the 5 o'clock show that no one ever expects to wake up and find out sometime that day that a shooting has happened in their town. But that's exactly what happened here in Russellville. And people are trying to band together and just trying to cope with it as best as we possibly can.
You were able to talk to some people today who were involved in yesterday's incident. What new information did you learn today?
Well, today is really another long day here in Russellville, and a lot of that just has to do with how far up North Main Street Harris actually made it. There were only 3 bullet wounds that were reported, but today a worker with Hayes Shoe Store says we're lucky because it could have been a lot more.
Lindsay Goff was with us today in the community of Russell. I'm going to bring Lindsay in right now. Lindsay, you spoke with people today in town. How is this resonating with them? This is obviously something they're not used to.
I don't think it's actually set into them that this happened in their small little town just yet. I got a lot of shock in that they were in awe, and, you know, maybe tomorrow it will be sad and maybe even scared, but today I think they're still just trying to process what actually happened.
Now, obviously they're processing too, but that prayer vigil we saw behind us earlier was also a lot about taking that next step forward. It's obviously a story that's going to resonate with people, and they're going to remember for years here in Russellville, but they're doing what they can to move forward, correct?
Yeah, they were asking for healing and understanding, and I think really trying to keep the survivors in their prayers as they go through this recovery process. But like Jake said, I was all around the community today trying to see how they were handling things in the wake of this shooting.
Day 6 of the Anthony Barber murder trial, with Barber himself taking the stand, describing his involvement in the case. Barber says Kelsey Wallace had a lot more to do with the murder of her daughter than she's admitted to. Our Jake Boswell shows you what happened in court today, live from Glasgow.
Good evening, Gene. Day 6 of Anthony Barber's murder trial has come to a close, and the trial looks like it's nearing an end as a whole. After sitting in court for 6 whole days, really not able to say anything, today Anthony Barber finally got his say, taking the witness stand in his own murder trial. Now, his recounting of events is completely different from what the prosecution has said in this case. Barber says he's not the one who killed 2-year-old Lainey Wallace in May of 2015. Instead, it was the child's mother, Kelsey Wallace. Now, Barber's attorney, Ken Garrett, has hinted at this throughout the trial, but today was the first time we saw everything laid out as a whole. Barber says that Lainey Wallace, her sister Kinley, himself, and Kelsey were out arrowhead hunting when Lainey Wallace began to act up. That's when the group went home. Barber says he left the home for 3 or 4 hours due to it being a stressful situation. Then whenever he returned to the house, what he found was Kelsey Wallace and a dead Lainey Wallace.
When you got to the bedroom, what did you see?
I seen Kelsey with Lainey in the bed, and she was crying.
Who was crying?
Kelsey.
Describe to the jury what you were able to see.
I seen Lainey there, and she wasn't moving.
Did she relate to you why she
said the reason that he nor Kelsey went to police is because they had both injected meth on that Saturday night and were worried they would be arrested not only for anything that had to do with Lainey Wallace's death, but also for drug use. That story completely different, like I've been saying, from what the Commonwealth has laid out in this case, and also from what Kelsey Wallace has testified in this case. The jury is going to have to decide which of those stories they believe tomorrow. It looks like both the Commonwealth and the defense will be giving their closing arguments early in the morning. We can see the jury begin to deliberate as soon as lunchtime tomorrow, and that also means we could have a verdict in this case that's began back in May of 2015, taken so much media attention and also so much pain from both of these families involved. Finally, tomorrow, we could find out whether Anthony Barber is guilty or not in the eyes of a jury. Reporting live in Glasgow, Jake Boswell, 13 News.
This is 13 News at 6.
With the presidential election, we'll take Donald Trump taking the bluegrass earlier tonight and several other states. We'll get to that map right there. Those states that are in red, those have officially been called by the Associated Press, and ABC News also confirming that. Lots of red on the board right now for Donald Trump. That official number is 168 in the Electoral College. For Trump, 131 for Hillary Clinton. Of course, that magic number is 270. All eyes right now are on Wisconsin and Michigan, who are both leaning Trump right now, but we'll continue to update that as the results come in.
And right after the polls closed in the Central Time Zone, the U.S. Senate race went in favor of Bowling Green's Rand Paul. Paul defeated Lexington Mayor Jim Gray with 56% of the vote. With more on the Senate race, here's Jake Boswell.
A night in downtown Louisville that began with much anticipation, ending with an equal amount of celebration as U.S. Senator Rand Paul has been re-elected to the United States Senate, serving the people of Kentucky for 6 more years after an easy defeat of Lexington Mayor Jim Gray. When he took the stage this evening to talk to his supporters, he said his next 6 years in office will be much like the first 6, saying he'll stand for less government in the United States and in Kentucky.
It isn't about how government will lead us to prosperity. The debate is about getting government out of the way of human ingenuity. Across Kentucky, we've seen what it takes for America to thrive again. It will take a community that cherishes and encourages each of us to know that we are our brother's keeper. Stand with me now as together we seek a new vision for America. Thank you, and God bless America.
Now, this is not exactly where Paul may have pictured himself during the presidential election. He would have rather been the Republican nominee, but he does have some numbers to build on in the state of Kentucky. During a recent WKU Big Red poll, he was listed as the most favorable politician on a national scale in Kentucky, numbers he'll hope to build on in the next 6 years as he serves the United States Senate. Reporting in Louisville, Jake Boswell, 13 News.
Senator Paul's opponent gave a concession speech earlier. To bring us more on the Lexington mayor, here's Mike Cleff.
Democratic U.S. Senate candidate Jim Gray, who's the current mayor of Lexington and, of course, a Glasgow native, He certainly didn't shy away from the underdog role in his race against Republican incumbent Rand Paul. In fact, he flat out embraced it. But at about 6:45 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, we received word here at the Manchester Music Hall that Gray had conceded in his race against Paul, and he spoke to supporters earlier this evening at the Manchester Music Hall, thanking them feverishly for their support and saying although the campaign was a losing one, it was one that was well worth it.
Kentuckians care about each other. I experienced that firsthand, and I'm grateful to the thousands of Kentuckians who welcomed me and offered me nothing but hospitality and respect. I met some unforgettable people on the campaign trail, like the college student who approached me in a coffee shop and just hugged me, and he said, "Thank you for running. I'm gay too."
As for Jim Gray's political future, the rumors about him possibly running for the governorship of Kentucky, those close to him say that's fairly doubtful. But he is eligible to run for a third term as the mayor of Lexington in 2018. And also, Gray insiders say that is definitely a possibility. From Manchester Music Hall in Lexington, Kentucky, Mike Clef, 13 News.
There are no words that could quantify just how excited I am to be the head football coach here.
It's official. Western Kentucky University has a new head football coach. We broke the news earlier today. Mike Sanford Jr. is the 20th football coach in WKU history. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gene Burke. We're going straight over to sports director Mike Clef with the man of the hour.
All right, thank you very much, Gene. And there's just no doubt about it. Let's get to the point. This is Mike Sanford, the 20th head coach in the history of WKU football. Before the questions start, just a congratulations.
Last time Coach Sanford was at WKU, his family looked a lot different. Sean Bowdy spoke with them today about their journey alongside Coach.
Gene, in 2010, Mike Sanford moved to Bowling Green with his wife, Anne Marie, and his almost 3-week-old daughter. Tonight, as Sanford reintroduced himself to the WKU community, we were also introduced to his growing family. I spoke with his wife, Anne Marie, who tells me they're excited to be back where their family basically started.
It's been such an awesome little journey that we've had, and we've wanted to be back for so long. We've loved the community, and we just are so proud of Mike, and we're just so excited to be here and be back.
She says they're very excited to be back, like I said, basically where their family started, and they are overwhelmed by emotions.
Next on 13 News at 6, Political Director Michael Gossam talks to Melinda Hill about her last week as a Bowling Green City Commissioner. The full interview after the break. Around 11 o'clock last night, Bowling Green police arrested a Bowling Green High School assistant coach, charging him with sexual abuse of a student. New at 6, our Catherine Gardner met with the Bowling Green Independent School Superintendent to discuss the incident. The man who was stabbed in a Bowling Green church last weekend is released from the hospital. Today, we hear one of those 911 calls. After 19 years as WKU's president, Dr. Gary Ransdell says farewell to faculty and staff in his last convocation speech. And in this week's Hughes and Coleman Hometown Hero, we meet a fire chief who's been helping his crew for over 16 years. WBKO at 6 starts now.
From your hometown news leader, this is WBKO at 6, live in HD.
The man who was stabbed by his own son in church last Sunday is released from the hospital. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Gene Burke. Today, we're going to hear a 911 call from that day. This is tonight's top story at 6.
Do you know if somebody got stabbed or shot? Yes, a stabbing in the middle of our service in the church. Okay. We don't know who it is. Amanda started stabbing him.
David Buckley was stabbed multiple times at Hillview Heights Church Sunday. His son, Ethan Buckley, is facing an assault charge in that case. He waived this morning's preliminary hearing, moving his case to a grand jury. So now, a Warren County grand jury will have 60 days to decide if Buckley should face a judge in circuit court. Buckley's bond is set at $500,000. A Glasgow man is facing charges after police say he threatened them. Dante Siger was originally pulled over for reckless driving. Police say he cursed at them, tried to knock out the windows of the police car, and said, quote, "This is why cops are getting shot everywhere, and it will be here next," end quote. Siger is charged with resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and terroristic threatening. Next on WBKO at 6, a close-up visit with the man who's been Warren County Sheriff for 35 years, Jerry Peanuts Gaines. And we'll check in with Bowling Green East in Williamsport. A Bowling Green food organization is making sure community members are prepared for Thanksgiving by hand-delivering food baskets. Our Catherine Gardner rode around with the man behind this generous act to learn why.
Yeah, Gene, I met up with Bowling Green Fraternal Order of Police President Sergeant Sean Helbig today to watch all the helping hands disperse the food baskets around the Warren County area. The reason behind it all, Sergeant Helbig says to let the community know they're there for you.
And one of his soon-to-be colleagues, Brett Guthrie, has won his seat for re-election. He didn't have an opponent, so he is the guy that will be representing the 2nd District of Kentucky. He's had that seat since 2009. Well, in the race for state representative for the 20th District, one of few Democrats keeping their seat tonight, Jody Richards, has been declared the winner over challenger Melinda Hill with 58% of the vote. Richards has been in this office since 1976. 19th District, Michael Meredith, the incumbent, coming away with a victory over John Wayne Smith, who was coming off a conviction for not reporting sexual abuse. Meredith received 69% of the votes, while Smith received 31% of the votes. Republican Matt Caslin beats incumbent Democrat Tommy Thompson. Thompson was at one point in House leadership in the Democratic Party, serving as majority whip, but he lost in a big way tonight. Part of that is Western coal country, the Western Kentucky coal country that makes up part of Ohio in Davis County.
We're back with more election results in Your Voice, Your Vote 2016. In the race for District Judge, Catherine Thomas won 51% of the vote over Gabe Pendleton. That's in Barron County. Thomas was a prosecutor in the Metcalfe-Barron County before opening a private practice focusing on criminal defense. Thomas won the seat that was held by Judge John Alexander. Alexander was appointed to be the circuit judge after Judge Phil Patton retired. Pendleton has been serving as interim district judge.
The race for Barron and Metcalfe County District Judge was really tight, but Catherine Thomas ended up coming out on top, beating Gabe Pendleton just by 363 votes. I was able to speak with Thomas a little bit after she found out she won, and she says that she's just really looking forward to meeting people in her courtroom and just handling each of their cases on a personal level.
For City Commission, Brian Slim Nash will join 3 incumbents, Joe Denning, Sue Perigin, and Rick Williams. In the race for 4 seats, there were 12 candidates. Joe Denning, Sue Perigin, and Rick Williams were all re-elected to their seats. For more on that race and what winners had to say, Sean Bowdy joins us on set.
And Michael, you said it. When it comes to the City Commission, Bowling Green voters elected to some familiar faces. Of course, like you said, all 3 incumbents got their spots back. Joe Denning, Sue Perigin, and Rick Williams finished 1st, 2nd, and 4th, respectively, and stuck right there in the middle at number 3 of former City Commissioner Brian Slim Nash. I spoke with all 4 of them about rejoining the City Commission.
Joining us again is media analyst Professor Amanda Crawford, the WKU Media Law and Ethics professor. This has been one of the most divisive campaigns we've ever seen. What part do you think the media played in that?
Well, I think over the last couple of years, or the last several years, we've seen just a proliferation of horse race political coverage, where everything we see in the political election is covered through the guise of how much is this going to help and hurt in the polls. It has really drained a lot of the substance out of the debate.
We have an update to a story we first brought you last night. Through an opens records request, WBKO has learned Glasgow police officer Brandon Fletcher's blood alcohol level was .068 when he was suspended for going to work with alcohol in his system. The police department says the alcohol was consumed while he was off duty the night before. Officer Fletcher was suspended without pay for 40 hours, which began on Sunday, for violating the city's drug and alcohol policy. He will not face traffic or criminal charges. This was the first time he was disciplined by the Glasgow Police Department for drug or alcohol violations.
One South Central Kentucky high school student is doing big things, and they're not things you might expect. Sean Bowdy is here to tell us about a unique homecoming queen.
Jean, this homecoming queen at Franklin Simpson High School is making a name for herself for all the right reasons. As involved in school as any student around, my special report tells the story of an impressive young lady.
Next on WBKO at 10, he made the most of his 16 years as fire chief. That's why he's this week's Hughes and Coleman hometown hero. You'll meet him when we come back. But first, today on our poll we asked, do you think Ryan Lochte is telling the truth about being robbed in Rio? Only 40% of you believe him, while most of you do not.